Right, welcome back. Last time, well, we joined the Internationale, and then the Princely Federation decided to declare war on Tibet. Which is, fun. So, lots of fun for all to be had. So yeah, now we're dealing with naval invasion after naval invasion. Like down here. I've occasionally lost troops, well, lost divisions, but I've destroyed far more on the enemy side. Specifically, Japanese divisions. They tend to be the ones to be destroyed simply because they're usually the ones that are participating in the naval invasions. Yeah. Right now I'm working on an encirclement. And up with that. Okay. It's the end of the line for Dai Chunfeng, the infamous Laoban, literal the boss. After being called for a meeting, a sack was placed over his head and he was arrested, sent to an unknown destination where he has not been heard of since. In the meanwhile, Dai's men have broken into squabbling factions, further diluting their importance. Despite Dai's hatred for the factionalism within the party, his agents have themselves often broken into provincial networks. He has not been above playing them against one another, even as he stresses the need for Jiangfeng, family tradition. This often takes a literal dimension with his recruitment of his children, family, classmates, and fellow Zhejianese into his agency's ranks. In particular, he has expressed a fondness for tough fellows of rivers and lakes, drawn from the southern provinces, particularly Zhejiang, Hunan, and Guangdong. These form the basis of the now competing intelligence cliques. Mao Renfeng, Dai's childhood friend from Zhejiang, has taken charge of the Zhejiang clique, and also the smaller, more intimate Jiangsheng faction of the men drawn from their home country. The Guangdong clique is the largest thanks to the party's historic connection to Guangdong. Led by Zheng Jiemen, they include many French-trained agents. Tang Zong leads the smaller Hunan faction and includes many British-trained agents. A neutral faction led by Wei Deming, the soul of Dai's operation, charged with communications, has also emerged. Zheng has taken the initial advantage, but virtually nobody addresses him as Lao Ban, a testament to the inadequacies of each of the successors without Dai. As Dai lieutenants scheme against one another, the WMARCA has slowly taken away their prerogatives. They have placed the nominally military intelligence agency more firmly under army control, thus ending the shadow once and for all. Putting down the rabid dog. It wasn't always like this. Years ago, when the Tongmenghui first took power at the end of the Xinhai Revolution, there was hope for a multi-plural democratic republic. But even as they entered Beijing for negotiations, sinister machinations were already in play and the dream of a peaceful handover of power was dashed. In its wake, the KMT was formed by an aggravated Dr. Sun. The party has made its share of alliances with warlords and Republicans, notably the Constitutional Protection Movement, but ultimately it came for naught. And Dr. Sun realized we were better off alone. The Chinese United Front with the League of Chinese Socialists was the sole exception to this, and the decision to reach out to syndicalist powers splintered the party into factions. Yet another painful memory for the weary movement. Yet in the end, it was this alliance that now stands triumphant in Beijing. The question today is what to do with the others, the dozens of other factions who collaborate with the corrupt Pyongyang system. Many centrist factions have reached out in hopes of having a place in our new government. These politicians have a variety of motivations, some due to patriotism, some due to aligned goals, and others due to naked opportunism. Although the KMT professes the need for a one-party state during tutelage, This does not need to be so literally interpreted, as the LCS can attest. Alternatives include allowing individual politicians to run as dangwai, literally outside of party or party outsider. For this scheme to work, a reasonable number of seats must be set aside for these independents, though obviously not enough to challenge KMT rule. Another option is to simply absorb certain elements into the party directly. After all, there are plenty of people who once swore allegiance to the broad tent Tung Menghoi. Be warned, however, not everyone will be happy if we debase our party, even if it advances our ultimate goal of democracy. But it will send a message across the land that we are not a gaggle of socialist radicals, but a reasonable movement worthy of Dukterson's legacy. No use for them during Toot Lodge. Rather gain stability. Yeah, let's stop here. The war goes on. I've managed to beat back every naval invasion, though nothing has been quite as desperate as what was that? Though the situation at the start of the video was pretty much the most desperate it got. So that's at least good. I've also advanced into Indochina, at least insofar as I am able to without lengthening the front line in the process. So that's going to inevitably happen. The front line will have to be lengthened somehow. The question is, in what way? I've also started to manage to fight back in Tibet, although not without losing a division in the process. But considering 8 were trapped, that's actually pretty good. Things up here are stable, yeah. I haven't really advanced much politically because I've been wanting to... Well, this stuff gets you a combination of syndicalist and radical socialism popularity. However, the buff... No, it doesn't. Oh, that's this. Okay, so this one has a buff that is made stronger depending on your social conservative popularity, but that's not here. Okay, so it's just, yeah. Okay, doesn't really matter then. But I've been wanting to get as much tech boost as possible so I can take advantage of them and get as far ahead in the tech tree as possible. I mean, there are some techs that I've skipped in the process, but it doesn't really matter right now. This stuff can be handled relatively effectively. I haven't gotten everything for the Navy yet, though. It's mostly the guns. It's mostly the guns. I should be able to quickly tech up on these, as more countries obtain the naval technology. In fact, I'm pretty sure quite a few people are running out of things to research. So that naval has a distinct tendency of being last unless you're specifically building for it, which I haven't been until recently. So there's quite a bit of tech over here that I haven't touched, like motorized, or, well, to be precise, mechanized. Although oddly, Korea is the only one that's actually gone down mechanized, which is kind of silly to think about. Yeah, I'm probably going to have to do this at some point, but honestly, I've produced so much fuel. It's not necessary. Maximum daily consumption is 19k, and my production is 8k, but maximum consumption is a very rare circumstance, because I don't use battle plans anyway, unless I think I can win. Instead, I just micro manage the troops and press in spots where I think I might be able to win. Unless we get to the point where the enemy is so broken, yeah, as I said. Unless I'm certain I'm going to win soon. Mainly because the enemy ends up being so broken that I can just shove my way through with brute force rather than precision attacks. There has been a lot of equipment loss among my enemies. I mean, I don't have enough in order to know yet. 90% for Siam. Vietnam just has so poor intel that I have on them that, yeah. With India, it's 70%. Japan, I'm not certain. Their troops seem to be at top-notch nigh consistently. Could be that they're just so far out of range from the supply that it takes forever for them to regain manpower. I have spent a lot of time waiting to regain manpower when it comes to my modern tanks, for example, but yeah. The good news is that my modern tanks are, well, okay, stockpile isn't great, but I'm not running low at the moment, which is a good sign. Because oftentimes if I go through repeated combats, usually because of naval invasions, it tends to run out. Thankfully I can still gain manpower while that's occurring because manpower needs to be trained up, etc. But yeah. Though I have used up a lot of manpower in the process, I still have plenty of free manpower because China. But I may actually need to up my conscription law at some point. Where I can safely go to limited conscription without any negative side effects. That only occurs with extensive conscription, and that's only training time. Service by requirement is where it starts to become actually troublesome. I mean, India's on extensive conscription. I'm not sure if they actually need... Okay, they kind of do. They just ran out. See, Amazon all.serve. Yeah. I wonder, Japan is on... Yep, all.serve. Tibet Strike being the barrel. Do you need to scrape the barrel? Probably not. 25% is... Yeah, you have enough manpower to work with. You could stand to lower the conscription law at some point. As for my allies, equipment seems reasonable with Spain. Manpower definitely is, although all.serve, again, is not something I'd recommend using, if not necessary. Okay, that level supply is annoying. Italy seems to be doing fine as well, although... Okay, that's way more manpower than you need. You probably should go down. Oh, total mobilization as well. You should only really use if you're... You know, you can take the 3% recruitable manpower, which only starts applied by extensive conscription. And only starts. It really only becomes noticeably true once you're on service by requirement. Yeah. The USA also went through an election and went syndicalist now, so that's really, really nice. Because there are a few things worse than totalism. I do wish Britain would stop being totalist, though, as would Italy. Yeah, not really much to say. I've been focusing on getting land reform through quickly as well, in order to give me plenty of building slots and plenty of infrastructure. End result is going to be a massive quantity of military factories, because apparently I need a ton of military factories to keep the modern tanks going. And I mean it. I also need to trade vast quantities of chromium. because otherwise I can't handle it. I might need to start buying off of Serbia. It looks like it. But I'm producing plenty now. Lack of chromium's actually hitting submarine production. Yeesh. Slight shortage of steel too, but it's not a big deal. I can grab some of Italy if need be. I probably should build some more civilian factories at some point in order to keep construction high. Those should probably be focused in provinces that constitute my borders rather than anything else. Like these eventually, though they're currently under heavy assault anyway, so infrastructure's damaged consistently. Probably something like this province, or this one. Not far enough inland to be safe places to put military factories. Air Force is suffering the same issues as it was before. I'm still having problems with quantity of enemy fighter aircraft. I don't produce enough of my own. I'm too busy focusing on my modern tanks to really do anything about it. Something to look into in the future. But I am getting close to the point where I can start thinking about retrofitting my AV with actual weaponry instead of stuff to stick around with. Yeah, the borders are not the front lines have not shifted down here. Over here somewhat, but not over here, the main area of fighting. Although occupations do seem to have shifted around somewhat. Anyway, I've gone on long enough for sure. I'll see you again next time. Until then, bye.